Hey, this is Ruth Hartunian Allenbaugh. Good evening. This is Ravings and Cravings talking to you. I am live as opposed to the other thing, talking to you from Good Company WLI here on Main Street in romantic Willimantic. I'm very happy to be here with a local guy named Bob Dominic. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. So, there are benefits to scrolling through Facebook. There are benefits to reading some things. It's not all bad. So I connected with Bob through one of, I think, his posts on Facebook. And so I sent a message saying, what in the world do you do?
Yep.
Right?
I think you were looking for show ideas.
I was looking for ideas.
And interesting people, and that was a little, I guess, vain of me, but...
But no, you're here and you're interesting.
Yeah, I like to think so. I at least have an interesting job.
All right.
I'll give it that.
Yes.
I work for TriMark USA. I am a food service equipment design consultant, and that's a long title.
Yeah, so you need to tell us exactly what that means.
Right. So TriMark USA is actually the nation's largest food service equipment supplier. And what I do is I will get hired by either architects or chefs or food service operators, and we'll go in there when they have a set of building plans that are blank, and we'll help them design their kitchen.
Okay, so I'm going to just pause for a sec. Matt, can you hear
Yes.
him talking?
Yes.
All right, because his voice is very low, and I want to make sure people hear you.
We're good.
Because they can hear me, but they need to hear you.
Okay.
So unpack what that means as far as restaurant, like what does that mean for restaurant equipment, and then tell us some of the places where you've worked.
Okay. So the importance of a well-designed kitchen can't be understated. What we see a lot of times, especially in the food service industry, is, as you know, it's a volatile
Yes.
industry. And you get a lot of not just mom and pops, but a lot of corporations, a lot of management firms that, they have a great concept and they have a great idea, or they have a great menu, or they're really good at cooking. But they don't really know design aesthetics, or they don't know the ergonomics of a kitchen, and that's where we try to come in and help them. So we'll sit down, and it's a very niche type of design portion of it. Even a lot of the architects don't want to deal with it, because there's specialty equipment like combi ovens and fryers and all types of stuff. So what we do is we'll meet with the client. Let's say it's a food service operator.
Oh wait, can I give you a case scenario, and then you tell me what you would do for me?
Okay, sure.
Okay, let's pretend like I have a kitchen and I have a 10 by 18 foot space.
Right.
Do you work in something that small, or do you need something bigger?
Well, we do all different
So
sizes.
let's say 10 by 18, and then give me like your biggest blowout kitchen that you've ever done. So give me small, and then give me
Yeah, so one of the smaller ones I've done is a little Deke's Bagels down in Old Saybrook. We did his little bagel shop.
Okay.
So a little retail, but I've done even smaller, like the Crafty Stir at Mohegan Sun. We did a design for that one.
Okay.
But we've done some as big as the Gordon Ramsay Food Court Hall.
And you didn't even get fed.
And we didn't even get fed.
That's a fail, people. Okay.
Cherokee, North Carolina.
If you were working for me, I would have fed you.
Right.
Okay.
The flip side of that is I really do get to eat at some interesting places.
Well, okay.
So
all
when
right.
I go to these sites that I visit,
Okay.
I
Right.
get taken out usually by the local chef, and they have all the ins at all the good
Oh,
restaurants.
nice. So Gordon Ramsay, and where else? You had a couple of biggies. I think.
I'm trying to think. I did Pitbull's Bar down in Biloxi, Mississippi. I've done a lot of casino work, quite a bit of casino work. I was just in Oklahoma last week for Choctaw Landing for their
I know where that
Hochatown
is.
Casino.
I know where that is. Yeah.
So we're doing their banquet kitchen right now, and it's a concession kitchen as well.
What does that mean?
Banquet kitchen would
Or
be
concession? Yeah.
All right, so the concession is like a pool for the pool. So if people
Oh.
come up and they just want a hamburger and french
Oh,
fry.
like casual kind of food.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now the banquet is if you go and you have like a corporate event and
Okay.
you want it catered by the casino,
Got
and they
it.
can make everything.
Mhm.
But the problem with that is, you need to serve about 200 people at one shot.
Yeah.
It can't be like a restaurant where there's a wave and then there's a second wave and how many times you turn a table over. So those are the types of things that go into play with it. Going back to your original question, where if it's a small venue like that, the first thing I would probably ask you is, what's your menu? What are you serving there?
So, okay, let's say I'm going to just make something up. Let's say I'm going to be serving Middle Eastern food.
Mm-hmm.
So things like baba ganoush, the grape leaves, some people call it yalanchi. I know it as sarma.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to serve Middle Eastern kind of cookies, Persian sweets. And I want to be able to bake on site too. Okay,
Yeah.
so I know that's probably a whole different is it different? Or
Not
no?
necessarily. You know, there'd be some pieces of equipment that would recommend on something like that. We might want to throw in a combi oven. Maybe there's a convection oven in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, we would, you know, a lot of it is in the program, another project of some of your particular needs, what the type of food that you are.
Okay.
And if I'm not an expert in all types of cooking, so
Mm-hmm.
what we try to do is if I don't understand what the chef is looking for, we'll do some research and things along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start pulling together other questions. Are you going to serve beverages? Are you not going to serve beverages? Are you going to be using a dishwasher? How many covers are you going to need?
Yeah,
You know,
very
thing-
detailed.
Yeah, it's a
stuff.
lot of. It's kind of neat because it's half design, but it's also half like analytics. Like
Yeah.
you're working numbers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to figure out how much cubic space of walk-in cooler do you need, and you can base that on the number of meals that you have.
And you also have to probably figure out what kind of space you need to prepare what you're making, as far as like flat surfaces. And,
Yeah. So you know what we'll do is, you know, typically what we'll do is you have an overall building. So let's just say an even number of 100 square feet. This
Mhm.
is really small.
Uh-huh.
Typically, you want 40% of that to be your kitchen.
Oh
Your
wow,
back of your
almost half
house.
of it.
Yeah,
Mm.
almost half of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then from there, we kind of break it down. When I'm designing, is the first thing I usually do is I follow the food. So if we get a delivery, you think about what your receiving area is.
Okay.
How are you going to break that into dry storage and cold storage?
Mhm.
And then I kind of go through the prep area, and I'll help develop the prep area, or if we want a bakery area and things along those lines.
Okay,
And
so
then it goes right into the cook line, or the cold prep and hot prep,
Mhm.
and then the cook line, and then out to the service area.
So to me, as a person who's a mother, this kind of sounds like the birth process. So when the food arrives at the door, this is like the conception.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then you create the space where the food is made, and then the food is birthed and people get to eat.
Yep.
And then when they turn to teenagers, you just want to send them. No, I don't know.
They have a
Not
separate
really.
room for that.
They have a
No.
separate room for teenagers. Yes, I had teenagers. Okay, I know what this is like,
Yeah.
and you have them.
I have too.
Yes, yes. So this is very interesting, but I also want to get your little backstory as far as how you came to Willimantic and some of the things you've done. You've done local projects here, and boy, I tell you, you know, I heard Click just got some big grant money. They need to expand their space there too.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. I would be happy. All right, so I'm gonna just can we erase that part, Matt? I probably shouldn't have said that, but I did. Okay. Sorry, not sorry. All right, let's go on from here. Tell us about your backstory, about
All right.
how you got here, and a little bit of even like coming and going.
Yeah, so let's see, where to begin with this? So I actually lived in Willimantic till I was about 8 years old, and then my family moved away, and I grew up pretty much in Dodge City, Kansas, where
Kansas.
I went through most of my grade school, middle school, and high school, and then I got out. And that's when I kind of started getting into design. It's interesting because I was actually kind of a good artist. And I had the foresight as a young man to kind of see that.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I'd make money doing that. But I also like to kind of work with my hands and stuff, so I took a shop class. And the shop class had drafting.
Did you go to Winnetech?
I did not. This was
No.
out in Kansas.
Oh,
But
in
it was
Kansas.
similar.
Oh,
It was
okay.
similar.
All right.
Rotec is what they called it. And I took a drafting class, and back then, as you know, everything was drawn by hand. So I was doing like architectural drawings, and I
see.
really I think this could fulfill both feelings. Like I get a little bit of art into it, and I could make some money doing this. And,
Yeah.
and that's how it kind of evolved. Got out of high school, didn't have any money for college, doing the Marines. Got my money for college, got out of the Marines.
Good for you. Thank you
Yeah,
for serving.
Absolutely. And then I got a job as an architectural drafter, and did that for probably, I would say, about 20 years.
Wow. You don't look that old, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, 20 years, and then what happened?
And then I was in my 40s, and I just kind of was burnt out. I was ready for some kind of change. but I knew I had like all this knowledge and expertise, you know, and whatnot, and I kind of wanted to keep doing something like that. And oddly enough, I responded to a Craigslist ad.
Craigslist. And what was that about?
And it was just some art, you know, some ad, a commercial kitchen. Do you have CAD experience? Do you know anything about Revit?
What are those things?
CAD is just computer aided drafting.
Okay.
You know, just that's what you would normally see these days.
And Revit?
Revit is a 3D based program that's used for design and drafting now.
All right.
And that's what you're going to see is everybody's evolving into that program more so.
Mm-hmm.
So I responded. I sent my resume, not really thinking much about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got called in for an interview, and I met a couple people. And at the time, I still didn't think it was something for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met the owner.
Mm-hmm.
The next interview, and we hit it off. It was like a perfect marriage. It really was. He and I clicked, and he was excited because I had my architectural background. He knew I was comfortable talking to architects.
Mm-hmm.
I had dabbled a little bit with some architectural sales in the past, so I was really comfortable cold calling or being on project meetings and things along those lines. And then as I got further and further into the profession, it was neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love trying to figure out the ergonomics and how processes work. The odd part about it is I'm not really a foodie.
What?
Yeah, and I don't drink.
But
I design restaurants and bars. It's just odd that I
That's
get
okay.
all these.
You know what?
Right.
I've never seen the Titanic. So,
Okay, fair
all right,
enough.
you know, if you're going to confess something, you know, I want to be relatable, so I'm going to tell you that because part of the reason is when I gave piano lessons during that time, and I've given lessons for many years. This is a rabbit trail. Everybody wanted to play My Heart Will Go On, and I'm like, I can't listen to this again. I'm not watching the movie. Never ever. And you know what? When I have people come to my house and they want to hear music, and I say, what do you want to hear? Yes. All right. So I have not seen that, and you don't eat or drink, and so there you go.
But I do, like I say, I do like, I like to study how people do stuff. And it drives my girlfriend crazy sometimes because we'll go to restaurants and
So what do you look at?
I'm looking at the
What do you look at?
bartender, how they're mixing their drinks. I'm looking at how the bartender goes through the back cooler and how many steps they take. Or is the counter too deep? Is the counter too short? Just think it just nonstop. And if I'm really lucky, they'll let me go into the kitchen, which is a little weird when you don't know the people. But I was just in, I don't even remember the name of the restaurant. It's the old Alt Neve Inn.
Yeah, it's
we went
up
there,
on Spring Hill.
Right.
Yeah, because they had a soft opening last week.
Right, we went the first night it was open, and we started talking. It was great food.
It was.
Highly recommend. So if everybody's out there, please go. Local establishment. We always try to support that.
Well, a little known secret. I was invited to come there on Monday and try.
Yeah.
And tour through there, and then to write and probably invite them here. So I will be following in your footsteps.
Okay, great.
What were you looking at? Yeah.
We started talking to the, I think it was the front of the house manager. I think his name was Sean.
Sean.
Yep, Sean.
See, we all know the same people. It's just, you do equipment, I do food. It's the same people, though.
So we start talking, and those are actually, to me, is one of the things that I really like to deal with is if we have the opportunity, I had no involvement with them, but a small, I call it a mom and pop store, that maybe they have that restaurant, maybe they've had one or two, and they really don't know where to start. You know, they have an idea, they think that it will be successful, but you know, if I can help them, if I can help them kind of accomplish their dreams, that is what motivates me.
So are you mainly commercial, or like could I, as a home cook, invite you to my house and say, can you do something?
It's mostly commercial.
Mainly commercial.
Yeah,
okay,
mostly commercial,
all right.
yeah.
That's okay. So I wasn't going to invite you anyway because I figure you probably don't do that. This is like small potatoes, probably, right? You need bigger potatoes than that.
And I don't like to say that because I think every project.
But you said the mom and pops.
The mom and pops, you know, like a restaurant like that. You know, I started talking to Sean, and he was walking me through how he was helping them, you know, build their menu, build their drink menu, things like that. And inevitably it comes out, well, I'm in the industry and this is what I do. And I start looking at things like, you know, if you guys have a chance, you might want to move this, or you might want to move that.
Yeah.
Or you could use a smaller hand sink here and give yourself a little bit more room. You know, just things like that.
I find it exciting to go and look at the bowels of a business, and because I appreciate then what's on my plate after I see what they have to work with.
Right.
Like I many years ago, I got to do something at the Willimantic Brewing Company on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
They did this thing where you could be like a guest chef. So
Very
you could
cool.
you could design the whole menu. You could earn something for whatever you wanted, as far as like earn a percentage, and invite your people to come in like on a Monday, because Mondays are slow and
Right.
stuff like that. And they got to go up and down all those stairs, and they have more space to work than a lot of places. But I mean, I've done catering at Harkness Park. To even try to
Yeah.
produce an incredible meal with this kind of space they have, it's
a challenge.
it is
It's
it
always
is
a
huge challenge.
And that's kind of the unique thing, is that, you know, you can give just about most of these restaurant types any kind of kitchen, really, and they'll try to they'll make it work somehow.
Yep.
But it's not the most efficient way.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yep.
you know, if that bartender's taking 15 steps back and forth to his beer draft,
That's a waste.
it's a waste of time.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I was doing another project in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. It's for Howe's Ear Golf Club. And I'm looking at their country club and things along those lines. And I was watching the chef go from the prep area, and it was a minute 15 seconds just to the walk-in cooler.
Really?
And then another minute to walk back.
Wow, that's a long.
That's a long time.
And especially for carrying stuff, right?
Exactly. And you got to figure that he's going back
Yeah.
15, 20 times a day at least. So you start doing the math. I go, you're losing almost an hour out of your day just walking to the walk-in cooler.
Oh, did they
So-
ever think of that? Was that a revelation for them? Or?
I kind of think so. It was like, I mean, I think that they probably the cooks probably think it, you know, is not, I'm going to say the word I was going to say, it's jacked up, you know, but they don't really know where would they put it. kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that's my job, is to walk in, analyze it, which I'm actually doing the layout now. And then unfortunately, the kitchen manager is going to lose his office. But
Uh-oh.
I'm going to put the walk-in cooler there
Yeah.
and then slide him down
Yep.
to the receiving area.
Yeah, it's
Which
doable,
kind
right?
of makes sense. you
Yeah.
know?
So for those of you who just joined, I want to make sure you know who I'm here with today. I'm here with Bob Dominic. He is the design supervisor for TriMark USA. TriMark is based out of where?
Well, our main office is in Mansfield, Mass.
Mansfield,
That's our
Mass.
corporate headquarters.
Okay.
Technically, I work out of the Tampa, Florida office. I work remotely out of my house for the most part, but when I travel to different sites, you know, we fly to the different sites and do it that
So,
way.
you know, I got a long layover in Tampa next month. Maybe. Can someone from TriMark come and get me?
Yeah, I know, right?
Because I'm going from Milwaukee to Hartford, and I got to go to Tampa in between.
Milwaukee, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I grew up. So.
Okay, I was just there
Really?
like 2 months ago.
Whoa, where were
Yeah.
you, what project
So
were you
that
working
project, I flew into Milwaukee and
Uh-huh.
we drove across the state of Wisconsin to Dubuque, Iowa.
on? Dubuque. Okay.
And there's a population of about 300 people, but they have a very small casino, the Queen Casino.
Oh,
Marquette.
really?
Yeah.
That small community has a casino.
Yeah, and it was the old, you know, when I think it was probably in the early 80s when they had the riverboat
Oh, yeah,
casinos
yeah, with the paddling thing.
and paddle boats. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're doing a renovation now, and I'm working on their retail space and kitchens and things like that.
What's the favorite? What do you love most about this job? What do you love?
Well, my biggest job satisfaction
Mm-hmm.
is when I design a space and then it gets built and I get to walk through it. And just to realize, like, I was responsible for this, how it's laid, and that was when I was in architecture too. Like, just the fact that I'm responsible for the development of the space, and then
Yeah.
it's built, it's real. It's something. It's really.
How many, in general, how many iterations are there from the time you start the project to the time that it actually is usable?
Most of that we have different phases in the design process. Schematic design is when we really kind of lay everything out, and that's when most of the iterations take place. You know, if I'm good, I might be able to nail it in about 3 tries. You know, and it's usually what happens is you give them one option or you give them another option, and it's just a hybrid of those 2 options, where they like certain things from it. But that's not to say if you get a particular client that I've done 8 or 9 options, but they're not full-fledged different layouts. It's just
Parts
the
of the
cook line is a
layout.
little different, or maybe the bar layout is a little different. or the bar location is slightly different than what they wanted to.
And how's the
Uh,
supply chain working these days for
Not bad at
your
all.
projects?
Yeah, not bad at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty much fully recovered now.
It is.
I'm sure what everyone's wondering what we're referring to is during COVID, it was awful.
Yeah.
Pitco fryers were going 6 months out easily before you could get them delivered
I bet the
outside.
prices were.
And the prices were kind of going up a little bit. They're not too bad.
Mhm.
We also had a lot of problems with walk-in coolers because of the styrofoam that was used was a problem to
Really?
get. Yeah, it was just very
Styrofoam?
odd things.
That is odd.
Yeah.
I would have never thought of that, you know?
Yeah, and then we're getting yelled at because, we're getting unfinished projects
Yeah.
where they're being constructed and 75% of the pieces are in, but
Mhm.
there's two that can't.
Mhm.
They just can't get them.
So what projects have you done locally here?
Locally, I actually did the Wyndham High School. I
Oh,
did the cafeteria
yeah.
there. I did the
Yeah.
the cooking lab as part of that as well.
I didn't even know they had a cooking lab in there.
Yeah, I unfortunately I haven't seen it
Oh,
because
How-
I switched jobs when it was like I had designed it and did all
Oh.
the plans for it, and then I switched over to TriMark. I used to work in an office down on Old Line. That's where I got my start, and I was part of the architectural team that did the plans for that.
what year was the cook lab installed in the high school then?
When they did
Do
the
you know?
when they did the renovations.
So it's like
It's about
2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Okay.
And it's actually right off the, if they still did it, it would be right in part of where the old cafeteria was.
And so you've been with TriMark for a couple of years,
Yeah,
you
about
said?
2.5 years now.
2.5
yeah.
years.
And then
Okay.
prior to that, I was probably about 8 years at my other place. And then before that
And
was
then
architecture.
Marines, or architecture and-
Architecture and stuff like that.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, without being too negative, what's the most challenging part of your job?
Deadlines.
Ah,
It really
deadlines.
is. It's the nature of the beast,
It is.
and we're a lot like accountants. It sounds funny to say that, but you have the construction cycle. So
Mhm.
this time of year now, everybody's trying to get their projects ready
Right.
so that when
Right.
the weather is good, they're ready to
Mhm,
roll.
mhm.
So there's usually a cram of 3 or 4 projects that they need to get done all at the same time.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of there can be some late nights.
Wow,
So
okay. Well,
yeah, that's probably the worst part.
well, and it sounds like you travel a lot too, right?
Fairly often,
So
yeah.
you got the packing your suitcase down to a science now.
I do.
As far
I
as
do. I
going
got certain
places.
outfits that I just grab them and I go.
They don't wrinkle.
And I
If you
one
gotta
pair
wash
of
them in
shoes
the
that can
sink.
kind of go on.
Yeah, you could do
Yeah.
that.
But that's also one of the real benefits of the job is that, I do like to travel. I get to see I get to see some cool cities.
Mm.
I get to see some spots that most people don't get to go behind and see.
Yeah,
You
that's-
don't get to,
that's
yeah,
exciting.
like
I
at a
know,
casino
I
and you get
know.
to walk back the house and you see how it works.
Mhm.
That always fascinates me. And like I said earlier, man, I get to go to some really good restaurants. Like I was down in the Texas area, McKinney, Texas,
Mhm.
and my coworker brought me to this Rick's Chop House, and they had the best steaks.
Oh.
Oh, it was. So
I have
good.
friends in Bikini, so next time I go to Texas, I'll have to
Rick's Chop
remember.
House.
Okay, Rick's.
Yeah.
How about in Connecticut? Where would you recommend? You have any faves?
Yeah, I like Capitol Grill in Hartford. That's awesome.
Huh?
Yeah, I do.
Did you install there or no?
No, I didn't. The projects that I've done in Connecticut,
Mhm.
I've done a lot of the schools. I've done.
Mhm.
I did the Rainmaker buffet at Foxwoods. I helped install that one actually. That was the trip.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that was kind of the neat thing with that old job was that, we mostly did design work, but I did do some of the install.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of helps where you get to see how the nuances of what obstacles they have. So if you're
Mhm.
walking through and you have a refrigerator that doesn't fit through the door, that's a problem.
Oh, kind of a
You
problem.
know, or
yeah.
if the hood can't get in, that's a problem.
Mhm.
Or, we have a wood stone oven, which I'm sure over here Trio knows all about it,
Mhm.
where they couldn't get it through the door. Well, it's like 3,000 pounds or something. And how do you lift that over a curb to get it in place?
Oh, I don't know.
So
yeah.
those are little things that
Mhm.
even it's not a design aspect, it's still a logistical nightmare
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
and that's what we have to try to think about.
Well, Bob, Dominic, thank you for being here today on Ravings and Cravings. I appreciate what you
Thank
brought
you for
to the
having
table
me.
today. It was very interesting. Next week, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be here on the air with Sherry from Pliables, which is a newer kind of restaurant in the stores area. So join me back next week at 5:05 p.m. here on Good Company WILI.